And welcome to the Really Helpful Club. I'm Sarah Austin, and this is the latest in our In Conversation With series. And today I'm going to be joined by Ahmed Elbakouki, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Echelon Health. And I love this series. I think for those of you who have followed us for quite a while, you'll know that I think I've done 60 or 65 of these interviews. And what I love about them is that each and every person that we interview is obviously unique. They are their own person. They've either joined a business or they've launched a business with a real sense of passion and connection with it. And our conversation with Ahmed is going to be no different. It's going to be, I think, a really insightful journey into Ahmed's career journey and also why he joined Echelon Health, and really to focus the conversation on longevity and the future of health, because that is what Echelon Health is all about. And I think it's such an important topic that we are all beginning to really talk about. And I think just in the same way that people talk about having someone to help them manage their finances or to manage the legal journey, I think increasingly we are going to be talking about managing to me. He's going to join me in just a second. And as I say, I absolutely love this series because this is all about shining the light on you, the business owners, the business connectors. Hello, Ahmed. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. How are you? Very good.
I'm very well, thank you very much. I was trying hard not to steal any of your thunder, not to introduce too much about you.
Still away.
And still away. All right, okay. But you will articulate it so much better than I can. But I was just sort of honing in on the importance of longevity and the future of health, which of course is an area that you are really passionate about. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us now. Now I've got your colleagues at Echelon busy waving at me. That's great. As people join, what I would say, I mean, this is just a great opportunity to pick the brains, listen to one of the leaders in the sort of healthcare industry. So if anyone has any questions, or they've got an experience of having worked with Echelon or having been a patient or a client, then we want to know about it and pop questions into the comments box, because actually I think the more these conversations are interactive, the more interesting and the more fluid they become. So let's just kick off with you, because I know you joined Echelon Health about 4 or 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
I always think, I love this series. I was just saying that I think you're my 65th interviewee.
Wow.
And which shows, I mean, I just love learning about people's stories, because I think that's where it all begins. And of course, this is part of the destination. This is part of where you are now, but kind of rewinding the clock a bit and understanding, where have you come from? Who are you? What motivates you? What drives you? I think is a really key part of understanding your relationship and your journey within the business that you're then going to talk about. So Ahmed, share a little bit about you and where you come from and what matters to you.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll try not to be boring as much as possible. Well, I'm originally from Egypt, and I moved to the UK around 20 years ago. I started my career after graduation with Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts. They were coming to the Middle East for the first time. They were kind of setting a new standard to luxury service and customer service in general. I joined them in the finance department, and then very quickly realized that to my benefit and everyone else's, I should not be in the finance department. So I just moved to sales and marketing, various roles. I looked after the European market and the North American market for a while. Then during one of my trips to London, I met a lady in Four Seasons Hampshire who was a colleague at the time. And then it was immediately decided very shortly after that I should move to the UK. She's now my wife for 17 years. And then when I moved to the UK, I joined Mayborn, the company that looks after Claridge's and the Connaught. They were owner-operator at the time. Then I got headhunted to do the reopening of the Savoy as head of international sales. And then I wanted to kind of do something a bit more impactful, for lack of a better word. And luckily, I got asked to sit on the board of the Cromwell Hospital as commercial director, which was an insane learning curve. I was felt like a baby learning everything from scratch because I spent most of my career in luxury hospitality, and now I moved to healthcare. I literally had to download an app called Medical Terminology, and I used to look at this app in board meetings just to understand some of the abbreviations. But yeah, but my colleagues, they were very good sports and they were very supportive. I spent about 4 years at the Cromwell, and then I took a leap of faith. I joined a small company called Echelon Health, very boutique, with big dreams of offering the world's most comprehensive preventative health assessment. And here we are, 4.5 years later, with a much bigger Echelon Health. And most of the aspirations are, we're getting there on them. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. My passion is really, I think healthcare can learn a lot from luxury hospitality and from the luxury industry in general, especially when it comes to the non-clinical side. So as an individual, when you go to a clinical establishment, albeit a hospital, a clinic, you actually have no experience or awareness of whether or not the clinical service you're receiving is good or not. So you naturally tend to pick up on everything else. The receptionist was not smiling. The food was not cooked very well. It did not look clean enough. And immediately that translates in your mind to, well, if they cannot get that right, am I being offered the best clinical service? So my theory is always if you're offering the best clinical expertise and healthcare service, it has to be matched by non-clinical service. That's really kind of what I'm passionate about. And private healthcare in general.
I think that's really interesting, and I want to pick on that a little bit later. But I think you make a really valid point there, is that, but actually I think what you have brought, and forgive me if I'm putting words into your mouth, because I think this is kind of just re-articulating what you've just said, it's that experience really matters. And it's bringing that sort of concept of service, putting the client absolutely at the center of the experience, and not over and above the clinical experience, but it means that there's something I think very daunting about going to any medical environment, whether it's just for your GP, for a flu jab, a consultation, to consultant for something, way more kind of challenging and potentially daunting. And so I think it's incredibly important that feeling of being nurtured through it, carried through it, the finer details,
Exactly.
if possible, really can make a difference. And, and kind of could feed in very nicely into that sense of kind of well-being, mental health, because everything around our health journey is potentially daunting to the layman, of which that's the vast majority of the population. And of course, your target client base as well. So I think you come with a very insightful journey. And the thing I loved about was the honesty of you talking about downloading the app, sitting there, and that classic thing of you've only got to be sort of to have a tiny bit of extra knowledge to be able to be ahead of someone, or at least try and keep up in things. But it's that sense of actually you've got some really important names there in your portfolio, in your CV, and you've obviously had some big jobs, and now this is a big job with a big opportunity.
Yes.
But it's that you as in your career have never lost sight of the importance of reinvesting in your skill set.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that is a really, it's what I find about this this series is so interesting, because everybody is different. Everyone's got their own journey, their own business, their own things, their own passion. But there's a real commonality as well. And I think that, that sort of success story comes frequently. There's a commonality with people who do keep their skill set building, and they stay curious in the industry in which they're in. And as you've pointed out, you have segued across industries with a sort of commonality in terms of the service culture that you want to bring.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And, it's just an industry I'm passionate about. And I also think this is the future of healthcare.
Mm.
Like within the United Kingdom, more and more people are looking to private health. More and more people are seeking, the best doctor, the best GP, the best consultant. What should they do about longevity and health span? And at this point, we're still at a point of slight confusion, I think, as to where we're going from here. There's either not enough information or there's too much information.
Well, I think that's really interesting. Kind of just picking up on that, the future of healthcare, longevity. These are kind of big overarching words,
Yes.
industries that again, comes back to most of us, our experiences sort of down at the local GP or or planning or thinking ahead, etc. You kind of just take us through a little bit of a journey about the narrative, about where you see the future of healthcare and this concept of longevity, because I think it's so interesting, and about that need to take agency as an individual.
I mean, about 100 years ago, we did not know how to detect most diseases, and we did not know how to cure them even if we detected them. Now, as we progressed, we detect most diseases and we can treat most diseases. So it's a natural progression that the future is about, let's prevent those diseases from happening anyway. And I know, and we might talk a bit later in more detail about the term longevity and what it means and what does that actually mean in practicality. But generally speaking, it's an umbrella term, and people try to, and it can be confusing sometimes. Longevity is the range from exercising 3 times a week to having open heart surgery. This is all longevity. These are all attempts and activities to live as long as possible while enjoying our health for the majority, if not the entirety of our life. So I think the future of healthcare, in my very humble opinion, will be in the availability of information to individuals so that they can create their own personalized longevity plan that works for them as an individual, not based on statistical probability that is applied to the entire population.
Yeah.
I think really that's the future of healthcare.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. And again, kind of at government level, there's all this, we don't really want to get into politics, but it's all about, we have to have a debate, we have to do this. And it is obviously, the kind of the healthcare needs don't really marry up with an electoral cycle. So anything where, we are now, if you're born today, you hopefully will be blessed with a 100-year life. Each and every one of us has to take responsibility, as you say, from managing our kind of our self-care, building it into our lives as a structure, it not being a nice to have, but a must have. Going to the gym,
100%.
looking
100%.
after our nutrition, and which I think sort of then brings us very nicely to Echelon Health. And you briefly sort of touched on what you do, but let's hear about the inspiration for it. And of course, you've joined just under 5 years ago. What was the inspiration for for the business? Why did Paul found it?
I think, well, our founder, as he would put it, he was a consultant physician for the NHS, and he used to do ward rounds. And during the ward rounds, he would see people struggling with life-threatening disease that, in his mind, he really believed this can all be prevented. It doesn't need to be like this. And that's our core ethos, saving lives through early detection. Then you get into the whole sea of why is this the best and why should people come to you and no one else? And maybe we'll talk about this, and this will be a little bit educational as well, generally for everyone, to know what is the gold standard and how to seek it and how to look for it. That's really it. It's saving lives through early detection. It's creating the world's most comprehensive health assessment with the ability to detect up to 92% and 95% of the causes of early death for men and women. No one in the world can make this claim right now. No one.
That's an amazing number, isn't it? Absolutely, not amazing, remarkable. That's a remarkable figure. And I think it would hopefully make each and every one of us sort of in a queue outside your door wanting to come and do it, because of course it's all about all these different diseases, with cancer, it's heart disease. You know, the earlier you get it, the more likely it is that you can treat it. Not for everybody, but it overall improves the likelihood of successful treatment, and therefore a longer and more fulfilling life. So let's drill a little bit deeper. And so, so I'm already hooked on that figure, thinking, right, okay, come to Echelon Health, and they can detect almost
Pretty much.
100% of exactly, almost 100%. So we like that, of preventable diseases or treatable diseases. So what, you tell us a bit more about the services, what you offer, what you test for, and maybe give a couple of examples of clients and what they've come for, because I think, again, it helps me as a layman understand what you offer, and whether any of that sort of resonating with me or people who are watching this, now or later on.
Brilliant. Okay. So I will talk about our Platinum Health Assessment. This is the one that our clients take the most. So not 90% or more than 90% of the health assessments that clients take are the Platinum. So this is the one that can detect up to 95%. It takes about 5.5 hours. We're based down at 68 Harley Street. And starts around 8:30. You'll be done by 1:30 at the latest. And if we take the body from head to toe, then here's how it goes. When you arrive, you will have a full body mole assessment, and also the nurse specialist will show you how to look for irregular moles as well, so that after you leave us, you can, how to identify them yourself. And then you go and have a CT for your lungs to look at the chest area. You would have a CT coronary angiogram to look at the buildup of calcium inside your heart arteries. We can see this as small as a millimeter in the CT machine. Wow. This is the leading cause of early death and sudden death in people. The heart arteries become clogged. It breaks, it causes a clot, and there you have a heart attack. That's basically what happened. And it's literally from gradual buildup of plaque or calcium within the arteries. If you detect this at an early enough stage where you don't even have symptoms about it, you can institute treatment to either stop it from progressing, or in some cases, even help it regress. So that's one. Then we do a
and sorry to interrupt you, Ahmed. That you're saying that is the leading cause of death
in men and in women after menopause. Yes. A lot of people think, breast cancer, things like that, but no, it's actually cardiovascular disease in women as well.
Okay. So enormously important. Yeah. Okay.
100%. Then we move to a CT of the abdomen, pelvis, and the colon area. So we look at all of the internal organs in your body, again, with very high accuracy. Then we do a virtual colonoscopy. So no tube up the back passage, no sedation. The CT machine creates almost a fly through your colon. It's quite futuristic, actually. Paul loves to put this in every presentation, and I keep telling him it might put some people off, but to him, this is science, and it's beautiful.
For anyone that's ever had a colonoscopy, you sold it already.
Yeah. So, but this is because colon cancer develops from small polyps that grow and then morph into colon cancer. It normally takes between 5 to 10 years. So there is no reason for anyone to have colon cancer. If you detect it early enough before the cells mutate, you can take out those polyps, and that's it. And again, this is what people don't know about things like that. Then let's take a female platinum. The ladies will get a mammogram and what is called a BMD, which is a bone mineral density. It's again, the gold standard above a DEXA scan that measures the bone density. Then we take comprehensive bloods, around 40 parameters. And then we do ultrasound of the thyroid and TVS, so transvaginal ultrasound. And then you do an MRI of the brain, cerebral, and carotid area. So the brain and all the arteries surrounding the brain, and also the carotid. Why? Because this is a risk of stroke. You get calcium built up in the carotid. If it breaks, it goes to the brain. So we test that as well. The men get an MRI of their prostate, which is the gold standard. and they get ultrasound of the testes as well, and they get the ultrasound of the thyroid gland. This is the day. It's quite intense. It's 5.5 hours. It's one test after the next. Part of the blood test is we also do what's called a menopause staging. So it's either peri, pre, or menopausal. So we measure the hormones as well. And then if something, depending on the stage, again, treatment or HRT can be instituted depending on the recommendation from the doctor. This is the most comprehensive in the world. And I say that one of the simple reasons is if you go to the NHS and say, I have chest pain in my lungs, they will do an X-ray.
Yeah.
Right? If you discover a tumor on X-ray on the lungs, the chance of survival is between 5 and 10%. If you discover it on the CT machine to as small as 1 or 2 millimeter, your chance of survival is 95%. So this is how much of a difference using the right modality, imaging modality, for the relevant organ you are trying to image. This is how much difference it makes.
Yeah.
So that's what we use. It's only the gold standard.
You're scaring me slightly because it's like
fair enough.
Everybody should have this, shouldn't they? It's
yeah.
But of course it's a privilege. It's something that's either self-funded or you provide it from your company or whatever.
Sure.
But it's a no-brainer. I mean, when you talk of a statistic like that of you got to the stage of a tumor and effectively there's a 1 in 10 or a 1 in 20 chance of making it, or in coming to you and getting early detection, hopefully, because it of course needs to happen early enough, and then there's an enormously high, you're more likely to die of something else. And so
yes. Yeah, and
it's a complete no-brainer. So so she
is,
and
but we're
so
not we're not educated in this country to think prevention. We have the blanket, the comfort blanket of the NHS. Something happens, I go to the NHS. Well, guess what? NHS is struggling. Insurance companies don't insure chronic illness, and they do their best to dodge out on paying what is already covered as well. So it is back to the whole, you need to take agency of your own health. I'd like to read you a very quick note that I got from one of our clients. Just put it into perspective. It's a very quick note. It's actually a couple who gifted each other the platinum assessment, which is very funny because nothing says I love you like a colonoscopy. But
well, I want to know what you're going to die of, or I love you so much I want to prevent the death. So
yes,
hopefully it was the latter.
Open for interpretation.
Exactly.
Yes. So it says, had I not undergone the platinum assessment, I would not have known anything about the mass discovered on my pancreas, unless or until it became a problem, by which time it may have been too late. So I'm very relieved that it has been found and that there's time to deal with it. Also, my husband, heart CT revealed severe calcification in one of his arteries. Again, no symptoms whatsoever. Echelon doctor arranged for him to see a cardiologist, and treatment has been arranged, although he doesn't need a surgery. He has been prescribed medication, and again, he is very pleased that he undertook the assessment. Another important advantage or factor for us was the speed and ease with which the Echelon doctor arranged the follow-up consultation. I had my consultation the same day I had my doctor follow-up. We literally got off the phone and into the train to London. All in all, we see this health assessment as a very positive experience and one that we would not hesitate to recommend to our family. Best wishes, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson.
Amazing, remarkable, and again, who your best ambassadors, those people who you have literally saved their life, and so thank you to people who are joining. If you've got a question for Ahmed, we're talking about Echelon Health, which are the world leaders in testing for areas such as cardiovascular, for cancer, for all sorts of areas. Then please do pop something into the chat box. We want to hear from you and hear about either your experience or something that you want to know. I think this is just so fascinating, and that this is, everybody needs to know about you, and then obviously they need to evaluate how they can come and see you. But it's everybody needs to know about what you're doing, and I guess it's back to this sort of longevity piece, this conversation, which, as you say, the NHS is wonderful. We're brought up on it. We're brought up to savour it and to appreciate it. But you're absolutely right about this thing about taking agency at every different level, and the prevention side, I think, is absolutely the thing that it is honing in on. Do other people do what you do? I mean, that accuracy levels and the detection levels, I thought was a remarkable figure. What makes you so good and so much better than someone else out there? So someone listening to this is thinking, okay,
Yes.
I need to get myself tested. I could hear that shopping list of things I need to be tested for. I get it, and clearly this company knows what they're doing, and they're also focused on experience, so that's nice. And of course, you then get a really glowing testimonial like that. What do you think is do you have a unique selling point? Is it what would you say makes you unique, if I dare put it as that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's very, yes, we definitely have many unique selling points. Number one is using the right modality in relation to the disease we're trying to detect for. So, as we said, it's the combination of blood, ultrasound, CT, and MRI. We are, I would say, the only people in the UK who use this combination. This guarantees the accuracy and the earliest you can detect those diseases as well. So that's number one. Number two, we only work with specialist radiologists. When you go and have an MRI or a CT, the person who looks at the scan and interprets it, writes a report, is a radiologist. They're on a consultant level. There are general radiologists and there are specialist radiologists. Yeah. We only work with specialists. So when you have your platinum assessment, 7 radiologists report on your scan because everyone is specialized in their own area. I would rather my head scan or my brain scan be viewed by someone who looked at 300,000 brain scans in their career. So that's the kind of nuances that people might not know that happens in the background. The fact that it takes 5.5 hours with no downtime. The equivalent to what we do, you might find it in the United States of America. It takes 48 hours to complete and it costs $30,000.
Yeah. Gosh.
That's the closest you get. That's the another kind of unique selling point in what we do is the time it takes, and it's all done in one place. We promise our clients to only use the latest technology. If you're a company who own an MRI machine or a CT machine, you're not going to go outside. You're going to use this MRI machine even if it's 6 years old. You own it.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
We do not own the machines. I have the freedom to take my client to the latest technology in London, and we're lucky being in the Harley Street area, wherever it may be. That's also what sets me apart. So I can always live up to that promise. What also sets us apart is the non-clinical service. That's, that we spoke about. Those small touches, the care that goes into it, the understanding that this is a daunting experience. People don't take it lightly. We live our lives normally, and the second we think of healthcare, your mortality kicks into gear. And all sorts of emotion you start experiencing that you don't necessarily think about. Yeah. So we do that part very well as well. And we never let go of our clients' hands until they're happy with the whole experience. So every single client who comes to us gets an email from me asking them about their service and what they thought. And I have telephone conversation with them. I respond to all of them. That's essentially my job. Getting all the feedback from my clients so that we can always improve on what we do. That's simply it.
And I think the signposting you talked about was also really interesting. The fact that, a diagnosis, a result comes through, and of course that is a potentially very daunting moment.
Yeah.
And
yes.
So the hand-holding of that and the immediacy of, well, okay, we can introduce you to this clinician, this specialist, this hospital. Again, it's that cradling thing, which I think, again, is very important. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, how much money you have. Your health is something that is, when a diagnosis comes through, is utterly terrifying.
Yes, it's very important to also note that we do not have any commercial affiliation with any hospital
Nice.
or any clinic or any
Yeah.
consultant. So once you're done with your health assessment, you see our doctor, who spends an hour with you going through what is like 36 pages of your results, line by line. And then they develop a plan ranging from lifestyle to a referral to a specialist. That whole specialist part, yes, we have what we say, people we would refer our own families to. These are the consultants we work with. But there is zero commercial arrangement with anyone, which ensures that we're always transparent and we're always non-biased.
Of course. So take the Andersons, who they gifted their their full test, their platinum test to one another as their anniversary present, or the whatever present it was. What happens next? That obviously gave them a result and some treatment, but is that a baseline? I mean, how often would someone come back and have that sort of process with you?
Once every 3 years.
Okay.
Because it's highly comprehensive. It's not an annual thing, which then makes the price a little, a lot more palatable, if you would.
Of course.
It's only once every 3 years. If you are found in good health, if something needs to be looked after, then you get it looked after, and we move on.
Yeah.
So we are the first step in the longevity puzzle.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, got it totally. I think that gives a really comprehensive view of Echelon Health, and I'm sure that after this, I know we've got various people watching now, we're going to share this across our different social media platforms. I really like what you're doing, and I hope anyone that's watching this either now or when they catch up later on, looks at this, and everyone will know someone, whether it's in a business, a senior, a leader in a company, someone, just in your family, you'll know somebody that you think should know about this and should understand more about it. And from the kind of the top macro conversation level down to how you help and how you can signpost your clients. And and again, it's all about prevention. So I thank you for that. So Ahmed, let's sort of rewind a little bit. Sort of step away slightly from the service and what you offer at Echelon Health, and talk a little bit about you as a CEO.
Okay.
Obviously, you've held senior roles at other companies, and I guess it's what I always find, the thing I love about these interviews is the smiles on people's faces when we talk about what they do, and you just don't stop smiling. So that tells me you like doing what you do. So
yeah, 100%.
Tell me, what's the most rewarding thing about what you do, and in particular with Echelon Health?
For the risk of sounding cheesy and cliche, but I honestly don't care. This has been probably the most challenging and the most rewarding job I've had in my career. I love what we do. I love the fact that we're building a brand with the confidence that we offer, one of the best products in the world. I love engaging with the clients every day. I love working with our team. We have the best team I've ever worked with. That's for sure. Just the level of care and the length they would go to work with our clients without me having to do anything with it, to be honest. But definitely the most satisfying is that email I just read to you. There are few and far in between. Most clients who come to us are fit and well, and they just need some lifestyle changes. But when you get that email, this is like, okay, that's exactly why we do what we do. That's by far the most satisfying bit.
I totally agree with you. And I remember, I think you shared an email with me that you had from someone which talked about saving their life, which was really impactful.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, it happens every now and then, and you're like, wow, you really don't understand the impact. Those people become our biggest advocates.
Of course.
Most of our clients come through word of mouth from clients who've been here before. That's it. It's quite organic, actually. And so it transforms the life. I didn't even know I have something. Turns out I have something, and guess what? There's something I can do about it.
Yeah, and
now
I don't. And who isn't going to actually then go out and share that with your friends, with your your friendship group, your people you work with, because actually it's something to be really celebrated. So yeah, I bet you get a thrill, real boon every time you get an email like that. Um, so let's just sort of talk a little bit about the kind of the service side again, because of course, you've got that extensive experience in luxury and now in private healthcare, and you sort of touched on this, at the beginning of our conversation, where you were talking about how, private healthcare had a sort of a lot that they could draw from in terms of luxury. And everyone talks about sort of high net worths and ultra high net worths, etc., which is, clearly where, your natural client base is going to be. Maybe in a sort of a whirlwind stop of your career path, talk about some of the insights that you've picked up about how to retain clients, how to attract them in the first place, and how to retain them, and what do you think is the best way to service them?
Okay, let's talk about that. The first thing I learned about high net worth or ultra high net worth is that everyone misses one letter in this abbreviation. Everyone says H&W or UH&W, but the last letter in this abbreviation is I. It's ultra high net worth individual. And the first lesson I learned is any cliche or idea you have in your head about people high net worth or ultra high net worth from certain background or with certain economic status or every idea you have in your head, just take it out, because it does not apply. Every person is an individual. Learn to do your proper research about the clients you're dealing with. And I'll give you a very strong example. Many years ago, I had a Russian client who took the Royal Suite in one of the hotels and 5 other suites. His bill came to about $250,000 for 1 week stay, right? He was celebrating his wife's birthday, and he hired the top event planning company in the country, that was in the UK, to organize the birthday party itself. And I was in that meeting. And I think I've never seen so many presumptions about a client like I have on that day. The event planner came thinking, this is an incredibly rich person. He's a Russian client. And so I'm going to throw everything at him. So she came up with lavish ideas about people dangling from the ceiling and people coming out of martini glasses and foam everywhere. I can tell you, I've never seen anyone get fired so quickly and so publicly in my life. Because as it happens, this client was so low-key, so understated, and wanted an intimate event with his wife and their group of best friends. That's it. And so never assume anything about the ultra high net worth individuals. That's number one. Number two, I would say, do not put them on a pedestal. Some people say, oh my God, I'm dealing with this person. And it shows. It shows that you're just all over them and you just extra overly pull up. These people live their whole life with yes men and yes women around them. No one ever contradicts them. They really appreciate someone who states their opinion as they see fit. They might not agree, but they will respect it. So do not put them on a pedestal and deal with them reciprocally and appropriately, because that will go a very long way. The third advice I would say is everyone loves a deal. Just because, they are ultra high net worth, it does not mean that they're not going to negotiate. So be ready for a tough negotiation. And a lot of people come from the premise of, well, they have all this money. Why should I give them a discount? But it's not about the money when you negotiate with ultra high net worth. This money represents something. It represents your appreciation that you're going to have this ultra high net worth on your portfolio as a client. This has a value. You have to express this value. It's also a sign of respect. It's also a sign that money is not an object for them, but it's not an object for you either.
Yes.
So it's not about the money. It's about the building a long, meaningful relationship. Those would be my top 3 tips.
Very insightful, I think, and obviously really sort of hard-learned lessons. I mean, really, really interesting. And I think, again, for anyone watching this, within the healthcare industry, building a brand themselves, that concept of service and relationship building is incredibly important, and not losing sight, you're absolutely right, of the individual, at the end of the telephone, opposite you in the room, and and putting them as an individual first. So I think really, really insightful. Thank you. Which brings me to almost my last question, because I've really enjoyed it. I think we've covered a lot, and a lot of people who watch this series, they may be at the early stage of running their business, launching a business, making their way up the ladder within a corporate. What advice would you give to someone who is scaling a business with your many years of CEOs and MDs and having run a business yourself? What would be your kind of top insights?
Okay, here are the 5 things that I would, for me, worked the best. There's a guy who is very inspirational for me. His name is Jean-Claude Biver. He was the CEO of Hublot when it was struggling. He turned it around. He was the CEO of Tag Heuer, and he was the CEO of LVMH watch division. So you can imagine the brands list up. And he said, in order to be successful, you have to do one of 3 things. Either be the first, either be unique, or be the best. So either be the first to introduce a service or a product, or if the service exists already, then be the best at it. Or if it exists and there is the best person already out there, then try to be unique in what you offer. Look for a different angle. Look for a different, value proposition. So that's one of the advice that I live by. Luckily at Echelon, we are at least 2 of the 3. It's sort of like that. Number 2, I would say market yourself where your competitors are not. So for us, it was very important that we identify Echelon as a luxury brand. So I never interviewed or advertised or marketed in industry magazine or healthcare industry publications, or this is not our realm. We are more. We were in Forbes. We were in Times Lux. So this is where no one else is. So find your place in the market where your competitors do not exist, and you will win. The third point is know your competitors like the back of your hand, because I can sell our competitors, by the way, probably better than they can sell themselves. I know everything there is to know about our competitors, and this will keep you on your toes. This will keep you constantly striving to innovate in your product or your service. So know them very well. The other thing, a lot of people will work on a fantastic product and a fantastic service, and they will put it out there and they'll have a great marketing strategy, but the person who picks up the phone in their company is where they let themselves down. This can be the difference between failure and success. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me ask and get back to you. I'm not sure, or even not come back to the client. The client will not wait. There are other options out there. There are other companies out there. They will hang up the phone and call the second one. And if you answer the phone first, you're already there. Yeah. So make sure your frontline team is well versed on the product and service, and make sure they're empowered to make decisions. It's very frustrating for a client to call a company or a service, and the person picking up the phone doesn't know much about the service. The last thing is, for me at least, is be honest, be transparent, and give your clients as much information as possible. Because I don't care how technologically advanced we are, people do business with people they trust and they like. Even if AI takes over the world, people are still going to do business with other people they like and trust. I completely
agree with you. AI I think is revolutionary, and obviously within your industry especially. But but people have the same needs, and we still need relationships, and we still need to be able to evaluate things, and we need to be able to form and connect with people and feel that relationship in order to want to make that purchase, make that decision. So I think really helpful advice. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
My last question is, here you are. You've joined this business 5 years ago. It's clearly a world leader going somewhere. You're working with the very best. You're making a difference. You've got these clients that are coming back to you with these remarkable reviews, and word of mouth is helping you to grow. What do you think we'll be talking about in 1 to 2 years' time? If we sat down and did another one of these, or we did a podcast in a year's time or something like that, what do you think you'd be telling me about Echelon Health? What do you think would would be the big thing that you go, we did that?
Okay. That's a bit of a tough one. But actually, we are launching. We already launched a dementia health assessment. Dementia will be a big conversation. Now there are some treatments that's been approved for private use. Those treatments have some side effects, but guess what? There might be a pill coming soon. So there's huge progression in the treatment of dementia. So we just launched a dementia health assessment, which is again the gold standard: MRI, blood test, and an hour interview with a consultant neurologist to be able to detect it as early as possible. Now that there's something that can be done about it. So that's one that has just been born and then as an idea, but hopefully in 1 or 2 years when we speak, we will have a lot of clients that we were able to help. The second thing is we just launched a podcast. Remember earlier in the conversation, we were talking about lack of information or too much information. So this podcast is me as the layman and our medical director or the founder, Paul Jenkins, where I bring all the gossip on the internet about a certain disease, right? This is what everyone is saying. And he would tell me, actually, this makes sense clinically. No, this is absolutely rubbish. And did you consider these as an alternative? We don't even promote Echelon Health. We don't even say what we offer in the podcast. It's purely based on the most talked about healthcare issues, to demystify them, break them down for anyone, and give them advice. So who knows what we will be talking about in the next 2 years? Hopefully more ideas.
Very interesting. And thank you very much for your time. And I think, you're clearly world leaders in what you're doing, but it's also the contribution you're making to the conversation and this all important narrative about longevity, the future of health and the future of healthcare, and how each and every one of us needs to take agency, needs to understand, build our own personalized plan. And so thank you, Ahmed. And I can't wait to talk to you in a year's time and hear. Well, actually, I think we'll talk before then, but in this medium,
hopefully.
So we can give an update about where you've got to, because clearly, very exciting things happening, and Echelon Health is at the forefront of that. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
And anyone that's enjoyed this, we'll be sharing this. Look out for this on your platforms, because we're expecting you to share it far and wide as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.